kijana, je, angekuwa mambo yangekuwa sawa? Ndivyo walivyopanga Maulana, deni mulizoacha bado tunalipa, na tumekopa zingine China, tukajenga reli pia barabara, zilizobaki watu wakasanya. So tujiangalie, tuko pabaya leo kuliko jana, sikio la kufa halisikii dawa, tuko kwa Twitter tunajibizana. Tujiangalie, tuko pabaya leo kuliko.
And that is Sauti Sol featuring Nyashinsky with Tujiangalie. It's a song that I always love starting my shows with because it talks about how we should do a self-analysis as a people. And today we are going to do a self-analysis as a people. We are going to be looking at Africa's visions and plans and dreams and agendas and goals that never come to pass. Every African country that you might think of has a plan, it has a dream, it has a development agenda with a very, very beautiful, well-tabled figures, facts, and plans. Kenya has the Vision 2030. Ethiopia has the Ethiopia's Growth and Transformation Plan 2025. Rwanda has the Vision 2050. Nigeria has the Vision 2020. Ghana has the Vision 2020. You might note that some of these plans have already passed time. And so when I talk about of dreams and visions that never come to pass, then we have quite a scope, quite a big reference scope of dreams and visions that we had, that African countries had, that never came to be. South Africa has its National Development Plan. It's called the NDP. Ghana has the Vision 2020 once again. Tanzania has the Development Vision 2025. Uganda has the Vision 2040. Senegal has an Emergent Plan. Morocco has the Vision 2030. Algeria has the Vision 2030. Botswana has the Vision 2036. Mauritius has the Vision 2030. Zimbabwe has a National Development Strategy and it's called the NDS1. Namibia has a fourth National Development Plan. It's called the NDP4. The EAC, the East African Community, has the EAC Vision 2050, which I'll be telling you about why it's never going to pass. The West African Economic and Monetary Union, the WAEMU, if you ever heard of the WAEMU, has a development strategy. The Central African Economic and Monetary Community, CEMAC, has a development plan. The AU has a development plan. It's called the African Development Plan 2063 with a lot of SDGs. They are called Standard Development Goals, which I'm going to be telling you about. In short, what I'm trying to say is, you mention any African country, and one thing, one similarity that you're going to see in all of them is that you're going to find a development plan, well tabled, well structured. I forgot to tell you, Rwanda has a Vision 2050, which is it has to become a high, not a middle, a high income country by 2050. So initially, Rwanda had the Vision 2020, failed, pushed it to 30 years. It's now the Vision 2050. I've told you about the African Union agenda, which is a strategic framework by the AU to see Africa as the most prosperous continent by 2063. So in short, what I'm trying to say is, a recurring theme is each and every African country has a vision, has a dream, has a plan, well structured, well tabled, but they never come to pass. Not even one has passed. For example, let us look at the ones that have failed so that we can analyze them and see what happened and why did they fail. Let us go to Tanzania. The Tanzanian one is yet to fail, but it is going to fail. Tanzania has the Tanzanian Development Plan 2025, which means in the next 6 months, not 6, 8 months, Tanzania is supposed to be a middle-income country. In 8 months' time, Tanzania, whose GDP is, let us see the milestone that they have to achieve. Tanzania, whose GDP is 75.73 billion, has 8 months to become a middle-income country. The Ghana Vision 2020 failed, terribly failed. You're gonna be looking at it. Nigeria had a Vision 2020 also, failed, and all they do now is add years to the vision. If it was Vision 2030, they'll now call it Vision 2040. If it was Vision 2040, they'll call it Vision 2050. So we're going to be looking at all of those, and it's better if we start at home. We look at the Kenyan Vision 2030. Kenya has a vision, it's called the Vision 2030, which has a lot of things in it. For example, they use the word Silicon Valley. Kenya is supposed to have Africa's biggest city, the Konza city, and it's supposed to be the African Silicon Valley. It's supposed to be this modern city. So before I explain it to you, I know a video would do a better job than me explaining. Let me show you what the Kenyan Vision 2030 is supposed to be, and what Kenya is supposed to look like in the next 6 years. So let me first share a copyright disclaimer. So for YouTube, this video is for educational purposes. It's for fair use. It's for it's for news reporting, teaching, or research, which is permitted. So don't take down my video. So this is what the Kenya Vision 2030 is supposed to look like.
Considerably behind schedule as of January 2019. Thanks for joining us in today's ride throughout Kenya to find out more about the Kenyan future city. Stay with us as we discover more. Please, as you watch this video, like it and share it, for this is the only way that the YouTube algorithm can make it visible to others. The plan. The Kenyan government is promoting Konza Technopolis as a business process outsourcing (BPO) initiative through the Kenya ICT Board. Where African Silicon Savannah begins is how they describe it. The Konza information website states that the project hopes to draw businesses involved in business process outsourcing, software development, data centers, disaster recovery centers, call centers, and light assembly manufacturing. It also plans to construct a university campus with a strong emphasis on research and technology, as well as hotels, residential areas, schools, and hospitals. Additionally, a science park, convention center, commercial centers, hotels, international schools, and a medical facility are planned for the area. The project is planned to be built across 2,000 hectares of land straddling 3 counties, namely Machakos County, Makumeni County, and Kajiado County, within a 10-kilometer buffer zone, 64 kilometers south of Nairobi on the way to the port city of Mombasa. An estimated $14.5 billion, 1.2 trillion Kenyan shillings, will be spent on it.
Yes, let me interrupt the video for a moment because I want us to note the amount of money that is going to be spent on it. It is above $1 trillion, with Kenya's budget ranging around there, so it's almost half of Kenya's national budget. So I want you to note the amount of money that will be spent on building this futuristic city that is so beautiful on paper and on YouTube.
It is promoted as a major component of Kenya's Kenya Vision 2030 National Development Strategy. The strategy of the project's design. In July 2012, Master Delivery Partner 1, MDP1, was hired by the Kenyan Ministry of Information and Communications and the International Finance Corporation, IFC, to create a thorough business plan and master plan for Phase 1. 22 firms responded to the expression of interest for this assignment, and a short list of 6 was created. The ministry and IFC chose the worldwide team of 6 firms headed by HR&A Advisors, Incorporated of New York City. HR&A Advisors. Incorporated is a real estate and economic development consulting company with a focus on the implementation of sizable master plans. Creating the concept for the sales pavilion and the urban design for Phase 1 is the architecture and planning firm Shop Architects. An international strategy consulting company with a presence in Nairobi, Dalberg Global Development Advisors offers guidance to the KOTDA on economic strategy, tenant outreach, and organizational strategy. The local physical development plan for Kanza is being created by the Nairobi-based physical planning company Center for Urban and Regional Planning. Oz Architecture is a design company that offers Kanza sustainable development tactics. Tetra Tech is a global provider of engineering services that is creating Kanza's infrastructure ideas. Dar Al Handasa, a global engineering services provider offering construction management services. The development of the project. The Kenyan government and the Parliament Account Committee approved Kanza Technopolis. Deloitte and Pell Frischmann, a design consultant with offices in the UK, worked together to create the first feasibility and concept master plan, which was paid for by the International Finance Corporation. At that time, the project's scope was restricted to a 280 hectares, 700 acres, technology park with BPO/IT companies as its main tenants. Pell Frischmann suggested Kanza Technology City during the feasibility study to increase the viability of the technology park as a tourist destination. The Kenyan government concurred and hired Pell Frischmann to create a new master plan for a metropolis of 2,000 hectares. Reasons why the project is taking longer than expected. For African governments who are already battling to provide adequate roads, light, water, and security to their existing cities, putting such idealistic plans into action is no simple undertaking. According to Abdu Nuwang, a senior urban specialist with the World Bank in Kenya, creating a new city like Kanza is equally as critical as improving infrastructure in places like Kagera, slum, in Nairobi to give water and a better sewerage system. Some detractors claim Kanza was poorly planned from the beginning. Independent financial analyst Ali Khan Sachu from Nairobi stated, "The vision is misguided. The vision is too big." This location is really remote. The current infrastructure is not being utilized. It is presuming that you can involve corporate entities, venture capitalists, and academia. But Tanjan Demo, who led a team that conceptualized Kanza Technopolis in 2008, said the first significant obstacle occurred in 2012 when the National Land Commission, NLC, which controls public land, implemented a time-consuming land acquisition method. The process was far slower than the previous one, in which investors signed agreements directly with government ministries who took care of land leases, he claimed, and the delays led at least one contract with a German institution to fall through. In order to address this, the government gave the Kanza Technopolis Development Authority, KOTDA, which was established in 2012 to coordinate the development of the new city, ownership of the site. KOTDA now leases land to investors for 50 years with the option to renew it. Also, a significant problem has been financing. The government committed to funding 10% of Kanza's infrastructure in its strategic plan, with the private sector contributing the other 90% to the construction of universities, offices, homes, and hotels. Lawrence Eshel, one of Kanza's project planners until 2013, stated that the government was hesitant to provide its share and has yet to approve a law to establish KOTDA as a legal company, which would make it simpler to sign contracts with outside lenders. As a smart city, Kanza Technopolis will collect information from implanted smart devices and sensors across the cityscape, roadways and buildings, upon completion. The Tetra Tech team will offer the design recommendations necessary for the implementation of smart data throughout the infrastructure system. Via a sophisticated communication system, software will analyze the saved data. This real-time data will enhance features like sensors on the road that keep an eye on automobiles, bikes, and pedestrians, allowing traffic lights to change to accommodate commuters as needed. Kanza Technopolis will directly serve its population as a sustainable, smart city by raising the standard of municipal services to keep pace with population growth. Thanks for watching. Do not hesitate to like.
So that is Konza. It's called the Konza Technology City Metro. It's supposed to be a futuristic city that is supposed to come up in the next 6 years. That is how it looks on paper, how it looks on the plans, and of course all the drafts that have been made of it. And I don't know if you are keen enough. If you are keen enough, you noticed that whenever funding was mentioned, then words like the International Finance Corporation, IFC, words like the World Bank did come up several times. So when we will be talking about what leads to the failure of these projects, what leads to the fact that most of these projects never really come to succeed in Africa, all of these projects never come to succeed, from the Tanzanian, from the Ghanaian, from the Nigerian, even the Kenyan. One of the factors that we are going to look at is the financing. You know, when we are talking about an African dream, an African vision, an African agenda, an African development plan. But then when we come to the funding, the first word that we mention is the international funding, the International Finance Corporation, the IFC. When the first corporation that you are mentioning is the ADB, the African Development Bank, when you are mentioning the World Bank, then that is a disaster already. That is a recipe for failure, because we are talking about Africa's development, and the bodies that you are mentioning are not really African. So this is how that was Konza on paper. This is Konza on the ground. This is how it's shaping up.
And grow outside of Konza Technopolis. So technically, we see this being able to grow in the Konza Technopolis and more within the area. So this part of Mombasa Road is part of buffer zone. The other side of all these projects, and we are quite excited about supporting the government of Kenya and Kenyans to realize such an incredible project. So to enjoy within Konza Technopolis, all designed as part of the master plan. And that also solar power rooftops. So we're also looking at green energy harvesting and injecting that to the grid of Konza Technopolis. As you move on, we have public parks. So you know, when you look at the wildlife corridor, where we 1,000 acres, where we are going to have part of it being a golf area. Yeah, so that's a low density area. And then as you move on, you start seeing the medium to high density apartments being coalesced. And then on the far end, we've also mentioned our smart sports stadium. So we have tried to create an image of it. Right there, there's a small track. So that's the one you'll see when we go around. It's part of the university that is the KAIST. And then there's the Technopolis. We are in this building there. So that is the building where we are. Yes, that is, yes. Yeah, okay. So you can see the scale, given that the building we are in is just this one. And now you can see the scale. So as we move, the city is designed in bands. Remember we talked about the commercial band? This is where you find all the buildings are simulations. They might differ when they are being constructed. So Mombasa Road is here. You can see we are factored for a dual Mombasa Road. At the moment, it's only one.
Okay, it's a good project. Inafanya pole.
Hata mimi naona kwa nyumba inaishi. This is a place I want.
Too much work.
Collection center, and these are few
So in case you've just joined me, we are looking at the African dreams and visions and aspirations and agendas and economic development plan that never come to pass. And one of them is, we are currently looking at the Kenyan Vision 2030. We looked at it on paper. We looked at what they are saying on paper, on the drafts, on the architectural pieces. And now we are looking at what progress has the Vision 2030 made 6 years to its completion. Is Kenya going to have the Technopolis city, the Konza Technopolis city, the Konza Technology City, which is a futuristic city like none other in the world in the next 6 years? What is the progress? The vision was drafted many years ago, so we are going to look at what is the progress so far, and can we make it by Vision 2030? Is it going to be another Nigerian Vision 2020, another Ghanaian Vision 2020, another Tanzanian Vision 2025?
Below the road. In fact, when we were beginning in the long run, the technopolis, all the power lines.
So this is how the Konza Technopolis city is coming up. These are images from the city in itself. You can see the roads and the traffic lights and the street lights. That's all you can basically see. It's just the street lights and the streets and a few buildings here and there. 6 years to the completion of the Vision 2030, which was drafted many years ago. And this is what they had said in the Vision 2030 among the things they wanted. Among the key projects is this city. It is called the Konza Technopolis City. It's supposed to be a futuristic city. Among the other things is Kenya is so we're going to continue with the Technopolis, the Konza Technopolis city in a bit. Among the other things that the Vision 2030, which is a long-term development blueprint that was made in 2008, that was during the government of Mwai Kibaki. So it's how many years into it? 16 years since it was launched, 6 years to its completion. It had a lot of good things in it that were stipulated, looked like good development plans. But of course, as I said, is it ever going to materialize? So the first thing is, it had several pillars. One of them is the economic pillar, which aimed to achieve an average GDP growth rate of 10% per year. So it was to focus on agriculture, focus on manufacture. So let me tell you what happens in these visions and dreams, which you're going to see as a recurring theme in all the dreams, all the visions, all the economic development agendas and plans that you're going to look at. It contains things that African countries should be doing but are not doing. You know, it's like a drunk person, an alcoholic, writing a paper saying that I'm gonna quit alcohol by this year. I'm gonna start working out. You know what you're supposed to be doing, and you write it down, but you never do it. We don't even need to write some of these things down as development agendas. It is the bare minimum. It is what we should be doing as African countries. But we sit down, create commissions, create ministries to work towards development agendas, which never really come to materialize. The Kenyan Technopolis Konza is going to cost the country at least 2 trillion, close to 2 trillion, not at least, close to 2 trillion Kenya shillings. Imagine if it doesn't materialize, which I'm placing my bet on that it is not going to be. 6 years is a very short time for it to, for us to have achieved the things that were there. And looking at the other African countries that had similar visions, aspirations, and dreams, then I can confidently conclude that the Kenyan Vision 2030 is going to fail, like the Nigerian Vision 2020 did, like the Tanzanian Vision 2025 is going to, like the EAC Vision 2040 is going to, the East African Community Vision 2040 is going to, like the African Union the African Development Agenda 2063, because you look at even I'm going to share the documents of these plans. If you look at all the documents of this plan, for example, if you look at the Ugandan Vision 2040 Development Plan, it's in the World Bank website. The document is actually by the World Bank. So if you want to learn about the Kenyan Vision 2030, if I don't get the document from the Vision 2030 official website, then I'm going to get it at the World Bank's official website. Why that is dangerous? I'm sure you all know. African visions, African plans, Africans' development strategies, agendas, and prints should not be financed externally, because with that, there's going to be a lot of sabotage. And with them getting financed externally, it leaves me to think, it leaves me to conclude, it leaves me to suspect that it might be what we were talking about, what are the confessions of an economic hitman was talking about, selling white elephants projects to Africa, projects that are not needed but are going to cost Africa a lot of money, and therefore we sell those white elephant projects to Africa. The African people buy them. Now they have to pay for futuristic airports that never really materialized, but that they were promised that they were going to materialize. But instead of focusing on the real issues, instead of Tanzania, for example, focusing on flooding, which has killed 158 people, instead of it focusing on unemployment, which is finishing the people of Tanzania because the unemployment rate is very high, instead of them focusing on those achievables, then they'll go and talk to you about Tanzania and the Vision 2025 and how by 2025 they're supposed to become a middle income country. In the next 6 months, Tanzania is supposed to become a middle income country. How are you a middle income country when you still have hundreds of people dying of floods? I mean, why don't you first focus on the achievables, make life worth living in your country before going to the big futuristic plans, before going to the Marvel type of cities that you want to build? So the funding is the one that make me think of that, think of them as white elephant projects as part of economic sabotage to developing economies, where we sell them projects that they don't really need, then we finance the project, and then now they have to pay us for the projects that we financed that they really didn't need, and now they can't even do the bare minimum. They can't even provide medicine for their people because, as I told you, for example, a report came out that showed that most African countries spend more on debt financing than they spend on development and recurrent expenditure combined. So take recurrent expenditure, that is administrative costs of the government, the salaries, the recurrent salaries, the cost of running the government, add the development budget, combine them. The cost of financing external debt is still going to be higher. So what that tells you is Africa spends 80, 70%, 90% of its budget towards repaying debts. And these debts, if you look at things that they were used to do, they were used to build projects that we never really needed. They were used to build, I don't know, solar powered fields in Ghana that Ghana really didn't need. They were used to build windmills and some other futuristic projects that never really worked. I don't know, in Kariandusi, Naivasha, talking about having renewable energy. Do we really need renewable energy in Africa when we do not even have drainage? When we don't even have preparedness for emergencies and catastrophic events? Look at how Africa has responded to the flooding that has been happening. But then the narrative goes, what we need is a Konza Technopolis city. I mean, I have no problem with having a technological city. I don't want to sound so negative. I have no problem with Kenya having a Konza technological city if it is going to materialize in the next 6 years. well and good. I have no problem with Tanzania becoming a middle income country, like they are saying in their development plan 2025, that in the next 6 months they are not going to be a developing country, they are going to be a middle income country. I have no problem with that. If they can achieve that, well and good. But are we dealing with what is actually needed, with the bare minimums? I mean, you first have to deal with the bare minimums before you can't go purchase a Lamborghini when you haven't even dressed yourself. Why are you driving a Lamborghini in rags, in torn clothes? Why are you focusing on buying a Lambo when you can't even feed yourself? It's literally that. It's a very, very poor person who doesn't even have money for food, who can't even afford healthcare, who can't even clothe himself, talking about I'm saving money because I want to purchase a supercar, I want to purchase a private jet. So you are there hungry but striving to purchase a private jet. That is what most of these development agendas and plans are. Tell me why you would need a 2 trillion, it's close to 2 trillion, a close to 2 trillion technopolis city, technological city, in a country where more than 70% of the young people are unemployed. What are they? What if you invested the 2 trillion that you are investing in a technological city in actually providing solutions that would see people become middle income themselves without a whole plan and a whole commission and a whole ministry? Because it is possible. It is very possible. If you empower the people, they are going to become middle income themselves, and that in return will see Africa as a middle income. We'll see Kenya, for example, if we're talking about the Kenyan Vision 2030, we'll see Kenya as a middle income country. It is the people that make an economy middle income. It is not the economy that is going to make the people middle income. If the people are making enough money, if the people are selling their produce, for example, you use the 2 trillion to invest in agriculture, you really invested in value addition, and now the farmers in Ethiopia with its vision, Ethiopia had a vision 2020, if I'm not wrong. Also, it has what is called the ETP, the Ethiopian Development Plan. It also has a plan. So you invested the money in, if you are in Ethiopia, in coffee, making sure the coffee is the highest quality, it is processed, you're not exporting raw coffee berries. If it is in Kenya, you invested the money in tea, you made sure Kenyan tea is the best, you're not exporting tea leaves, instead you're exporting processed tea to other countries in Africa and in the world. The tea farmers are going to get rich in return. The Kenyan shilling is going to do well in return because now you are exporting products of higher value. So your export margin is higher than your import margin, and therefore your economy is going to do well without the plans, without the, I don't know, the technopolis, I don't know the what. And investors are going to notice that, yeah, Nigeria is doing good nowadays, and I want to invest there. I want to go to Nigeria now and build a production manufacturing farm in Nigeria to process their oil products because they are doing good. But now with all the plans, with all the talks, and yet you're not doing the bare minimums, it all becomes empty talk, empty plans, and cash cows. Cash cows that are going to be used to drain the people from those countries. For example, if the Vision 2030 in Kenya does not materialize, 2 trillion Kenya shillings would have been lost in this project. Nigerian Vision 2020 failed. Trillions had been spent on the same, and now they pushed it to Vision 2040. Trillions are going to get wasted, and then in 2040 they are going to push it to Vision 2060. How they don't realize that this is just economic sabotage, being sold projects that they really don't need. Most of them are projects that we do not need. We do not need majority of those projects. I saw the Ethiopia is building the biggest airport in Africa, in the world actually. Ethiopia is working towards building the biggest airport in the world. Let me see the name of the airport. Ethiopia is a country that is going through war right now. Ethiopia, it is being called, it is the Addis Ababa Bole International Airport, is it the one that they are expanding? Yeah, they are looking to expand it to become the biggest airport in the world. Ethiopia, let me read for you the Ethiopian GDP. Has a GDP of 126.8 billion. That's their GDP as of 2022. But their major priority right now, the thing that they feel that they need, is to build the biggest airport in the world, which they are working towards building right now. White elephant projects that we don't need. Kenya's GDP is at 113, slightly lower than Ethiopia's as of 2022. But yeah, their biggest project is building a technological city in Konza by 2030. Uganda has the same issue. Uganda's GDP is actually the lowest of the three countries because it is at 45.57 billion. That is almost as low as it can get. But instead of fixing the bare minimums that any country, any economy with people who know what they're doing should be doing, no, they're working on white elephant projects. They're working on the biggest airport in the world, the biggest solar panel field in the world. You know, that's all we talk about. Ethiopia was working on building the biggest dam in the world. Shout out to that. If it's going to be used for agriculture, well and good. If it is going to be used to produce more coffee, if it is going to be used to add for value addition in Ethiopian products, well and good. But if it's just another economic white elephant project, then that is just another economic sabotage. That is the Bretton Woods capturing you in a debt abyss that you can't really live. That is how we end up having countries using 80-90% of their budget towards debt servicing, because now the Ethiopian people with their 126 billion GDP are going to spend the next 15 years, 20, 30, 50 years paying for an airport. Why do you need the biggest airport in the world in Ethiopia? For what? What are people coming to do in Ethiopia? Nobody wants to come in Ethiopia right now. There is war going on there. There is insecurity of the highest. There is wasn't Abiy, if I can remember well, Abiy is the Prime Minister of Ethiopia. Wasn't he out there begging for funds from the IMF the other day, because apparently Ethiopia's economy is not doing really good? And let me check on that story. If I can remember well, yep, Abiy was out there asking for loans from the IMF the other day. It's 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago. It's trying to secure a loan. It's not actually a loan, it's a bailout. It can't even pay its loans right now. The Ethiopian economy is doing so bad that it can't even pay for its service, its external debt, the one that I'm saying most African economies struggle doing. But what does it do? So it's one thing we can agree is Ethiopia is already in a hole, in a pit, in an abyss because of debts. That is why it is literally begging the IMF to bail it out. It's asking for a loan, not to develop itself, but to pay another loan. It needs a bailout, otherwise it's going to do a Ghana. When I say do a Ghana, I know you know what I'm talking about. What happened in Ghana? Ghana's economy was gonna fall because they couldn't pay a certain loan. And Ghana being a country that of course depends on loans for a living, if Ghana was a person and you asked it, what do you do for a living? It's gonna tell you, I borrow for a living. That's what Ghana does. Not just Ghana, that is what most African economies do. So it defaulted on a loan, went into bad books with creditors, and now nobody wanted to give it a loan, and it is a country that lives on debts, and therefore it was going down until the IMF bailed it out. gave it money to pay for some of the debts. So Ethiopia was going down that route, and then their priority right now, even as they are in that debt trap, for lack of a better term, it's actually a debt trap. It's the term. Even as they are in that debt trap, their priority is building the biggest airport in the world. Yep. That's African mathematics for you. Anyway, we are going to get the Ethiopian plan in a bit. Let us first be done with the Kenyan Vision 2030, which, as I said, I can confidently say that it is going to fail. Looking at the premises, looking at the other plans and agendas and visions that have been in other countries in Africa, that is in Ethiopia, in all the other African countries, how they have failed, and the similarities between the plans and the Kenyan plan is not going to work. So it is looking at investing in agriculture, manufacturing, and tourism, making Kenya also a middle-income country by 2030, 6 years for Kenya to become a middle-income country. The other one is they're looking to improve access to quality education, reduce disparities, and improve well-being of vulnerable groups, including women, children, and people with disabilities. Let me not talk about that. The last one is the funny one because they are looking to bring inclusivity characterized by good governance and respect of human rights. That is the Kenyan Vision 2030. It is the one that we were looking at. Its blueprint, its center bolt is the Technopolis city, the Konza technological city, which we are looking at how it has progressed so far. So here it is. Let us look at it once again before we go to Uganda and Vision 2025. Before we look at Uganda has a Vision 2040. Before we look at Tanzania and Vision 2025, we look at African Union Vision 2063, African Development Agenda. It's called the Development Agenda 2063. It's the second one. We had another one in 1980 when the OAU, back then when it was called the Organization of African Union, it had the Lagos Plan of Action. They had a meeting in Lagos, came up with a plan of action. So the Lagos Plan of Action failed, and now they are working towards Development Agenda 2063. The East African Community has the Development Agenda 2040. The Rwanda had a Vision 2020. They are now working on Vision. It failed. They are now working on Vision 2050. So that is how it goes. They push the visions further. As more money gets drawn, as more money gets, it's a cash cow. And Keith has joined me as we are looking at the Konza Technopolis city and how it's coming up. It's supposed to be a technological city, the most futuristic city in the world in the next 6 years.
Where is this at?
This is Kenya, Konza City. It is supposed to be the world's most futuristic city. 6 years, in the next 6 years.
Okay. You can't fix the damn drainage, but you're the most technological city.
Priority is we don't want drainage. We want a technological, futuristic city.
Okay.
Priorities for African leaders. So let us look at the world's most futuristic city and how it's coming up 6 years to its completion. Once again,
excited about supporting the government of Kenya and Kenyans to realize such an incredible project.
We had already seen the plans on the table. We want to see how the project is on the ground, not on the table. On the table, they make beautiful plans. We want to see the city itself. Yeah, we want to see this.
Actually, it's a good project.
So here is the world's most futuristic city, 6 years to its launch. 6 years to its launch. You can see the streets and the street lights and the street lamps and a few buildings here and there. So this is supposed to be the world's, they call it the Silicon Valley of Africa. It's supposed to come up by 2030.
Hata mimi naona kwa nyumba yetu tunaishi. This is a place I want.
too much work.
Yep, of course, there had to be some Chinese contractors in there.
Yeah, I mean, you don't own the shit. The Chinese don't have control of it. Shit's stupid.
Underneath utilities below the road. In fact, when we're beginning but in the long run,
Have you seen any futuristic fun features so far on the city? Supposed to be a futuristic city, technological city, Marvel type of city.
I don't see shit yet.
So that is Konza City, 6 years to its launch, and that is the Kenyan Vision 2030. So maybe Kenya is the corrupt one, maybe Kenya is a secluded case. So let us look at another country. Let us look at Tanzania with its Vision 2025. So Tanzania one is in 2025. In the next 1 year, Tanzania is supposed to become Tanzania is supposed to become a middle-income country in the next few months. So let us look at how it's shaping up. The first thing that they launched the other day was an SGR similar to Kenya's, and they are working on. This is the Tanzanian train that they launched the other day, and Keith, I've lost Keith.
You have read it right. Electric trains. Currently, Tanzania is constructing the longest electrified standard gauge railway (SGR) in Africa, connecting the port city of Dar es Salaam and other interior cities of Tanzania and neighboring countries of Burundi, Congo, and Rwanda. In this video, I was invited to be among the crew that was testing the electric train from Dar es Salaam to Dodoma, the capital city of Tanzania. And as you know me, the explorer, I cannot leave my fellow explorers behind. So let's test this electric train together from Dar es Salaam to Dodoma. Subscribe to this channel, like and share this video.
So the same way Kenyan Blue Center Bolt, Kenya's main focus in their development agenda was the Konza City, which I've just shown you. It's really nowhere near futuristic. 6 years to its launch. Tanzanian was the electric train. They wanted an electric train, and they wanted to work on infrastructure and be a middle-income country by 2025. That is their development agenda. How much money they have spent on this project? Trillions, of course, you can bet. The Tanzanian development agenda, let me see how much has been spent in the Tanzanian development agenda 2025. It's trillions, I can bet you that. So far they launched the electric train, and one thing that I can tell you is it is going to fail in the next few months, and of course that is going to mean all the money that has been used will be lost, and all they are going to do is push the agenda to, now they are going to call it the Tanzanian Agenda 2045. Anyway, let us look at the electric train. Maybe I'm judging too early.
As quick as you can. This is the Tanzania train station of Dar es Salaam city that is found just near the city center of Dar es Salaam at the station area. The architecture of this building was inspired by the Tanzanite mineral shape that can be only mined in Tanzania. Guys, this is the train station, Tanzania train station. As you can see, I do not need to talk much. You can see by yourself. I will make an exclusive video about this train station later. Just subscribe. So this is our train that we are going to test today from Dar es Salaam to Dodoma via Morogoro. By the way, there are two types of these electric trains. We have this type, which is actually for heavyweight meaning for both passengers and cargo. And also there is another type, which is called EMU train, or in Swahili we call it mchongoko, that will be tested later.
But shout out to Tanzania, in as much as they are a corrupt economy, like most African economies are, they built a better railway with less money than the Kenyan one. It's a better one in comparison to the, I know, might be not a so better one if you compare it with maybe the Japanese trains, the Chinese trains, the American trains. But in comparison to the Kenyan one, this is much better. And the funny thing is they used almost half the budget that the Kenyan SGR used. And the Kenyan SGR is so backward, it's not even electric. So shout out to Tanzania for that. And as much as they might have stole some money in it, at least they gave the people of Tanzania a feel of an electric train, which the Kenyans might never experience.
For more information about this,
it has to be the best SGR, it's the best train we have in East Africa right now.
Electric trains and railway, just subscribe to TRC Rail TV. That TV, the YouTube channel, shows exactly or give a lot of updates about SGR railway in Tanzania. So guys, we are going to Dodoma from Dar es Salaam, and today we are testing our electric train from Dar es Salaam to Dodoma. Guys, inside electric train. Today we are going to Dodoma from Dar es Salaam. Very comfortable train. So have a look. You can put something here, very comfortable. And this is the view. We are leaving Dar es Salaam now, as you can see. You feel nothing, as if you are not moving. The train is going as if nothing is going on. You don't feel that we are moving, but see, we are moving.
That is Tanzania with its development agenda 2025, which, as I said, is supposed to see it as a middle-income country by 2025 in the next few months. Tanzania is a country that 150 plus people have died from flooding over the past few weeks because the existing cities such as Dar es Salaam, such as Arusha, do not have proper drainage. And of course, the government's response to emergency is below average. You can't call an ambulance in Tanzania and it gets to you before you are dead. But their priority, of course, is having a futuristic projects like this. White elephants projects, once again. When we talk about these development plans, these development agendas, then you're going to notice one of the things that you're going to notice is it's basically John Perkins' book. Everything about it is the Confessions of an Economic Hitman, the book by John Perkins, when he was talking about white elephant projects that they were being sent to sell in Africa, and not in Africa alone, in developing countries. And if the people did not buy those projects, then leaders would get assassinated. Several leaders were assassinated for not buying into the projects. So when we talk about the development agendas, if you look at most of them, if you look at the Ghanaian Vision 2020, which failed, you look at the agendas that were in it, you look at the clauses and the things that it wanted to achieve, most of them are that white elephant projects that do not really benefit the people at all. Because how is building a whole field of solar panels beneficial to the people of Ghana who are looking for jobs, who do not have employment? That is actually taking them downwards, because Now they'll have to pay higher taxes with money they are not earning. First and foremost, they don't have jobs, but because you took a loan to build a solar-powered project, and I'm not even making this up. If you look at every African country right now has taken loans to build a solar-powered, right now with the fact that climate change, and that is the new narrative, that is the new agenda being driven. If you look at every African country, they are building these big fields filled with solar panels. I'm looking for one so that I can show you what I'm talking about. Taking loans to build that, and then now the people have to pay for such projects that they do not need. That is just one. The other one is like the Ethiopian airport. Building a biggest airport in the world for nothing. Nobody needs that in Ethiopia. Anyway, that is the Tanzanian Vision 2025. Let me share a video of the solar panels that I'm talking about. They're building solar powered fields, a whole field that is just filled with solar panels, costing a lot of trillions, of course, and the people are going to pay for them at the end of the day. For what? For no reason. We do not need these things at all. Just white elephant projects that are meant to put us in debt traps, and successfully so, because now people have to pay for these solar panels that nobody really needs. You go to Uganda, they are making these windmill projects, talking about how they can generate electricity from the wind, using a lot of billions to build those and putting them in their development agendas, and now making people believe that the problem in Uganda is that if we have solar panels, then we're going to solve some of our problems. But in reality, we're not going to solve anything. What we are doing is just diving deeper and deeper into debt traps. And that is how all these projects, all these visions, all these plans that I read at the beginning of the show, the Kenya's Vision 2020, the Ethiopia's Growth and Transformation Plan, GTP, which is supposed to see Ethiopia as a middle-class country, middle-class income country. Rwanda Vision 2050, which was initially Rwanda Vision 2020, which was to see Rwanda as a developed, fully developed country, not a developing country. In 2020 failed. They postponed it to 2050. The leader who's there knows that if I push this thing to 2050, I'm not gonna be there in 2050, so nobody's going to question me in 2050 and ask me why it failed. I mean, he knows he's probably not even going to be alive in 2050, so why would they care? And now money is going to be allocated towards the project, and the project will never materialize. The South African National Development Plan, the NDP, the South African one is basically they are trying to have a South Africa that is free of equitable, free of discrimination. That is their main agenda. You have the Ghana Vision 2020, which failed, which are going to look at next. The Uganda Vision 2040, which is going to fail. I can confidently tell you the Uganda's Vision 2040 is going to fail, like all the other visions. The Morocco Vision 2030, which I'm not really familiar with. The Algeria Vision 2030, which is going to fail. The Botswana Vision 2036. The Namibian Fourth National Development Plan, the NDP4. The East African Community Vision 2050, which is beautiful on paper. And I told you the first East African president was supposed to have been elected a few years ago. Part of the plan was to have an EAC president, that is who oversees all the operations of the East African community. And that is why you are hearing all the talks about the new East African Shiafra. That is a currency that is supposed to be an East African currency. It was called the East African Shiafra. And a president who was supposed to oversee everything to do with East Africa. Is there an East African president? Not yet. Is the Vision 2050 going to come to be? Of course not. There are tens and tens and tens of these visions if you look at them. And General Mosquito is with me just as I was about to look at Ghanaian Vision 2020. It's 2022. Ghana was supposed to have become a middle income country by 2020. It's 2022, and the GDP of Ghana is, let me see, the GDP of Ghana is 73.77 billion in 2022. But their vision, which costed trillions and trillions of money, billions of money, which they took loans and loans and loans for, was supposed to see them as a middle income country by 2020. 4 years later, their GDP is 73.77 billion. So when I say no matter which agenda we are talking about, no matter which development plan we are talking about, the planning, the infrastructure, the systems surrounding them are not going to allow any of these development projects to materialize. And even the people who made them were not really interested in them materializing. They were interested in them becoming cash cows for them. This is Nigeria's Vision 2020. It's 2024.
Nigeria had judgment debts to the tune of 150 billion naira as at 2015, when the administration of President Muhammadu Buhari came into power. Well, that's according to the Attorney General of the Federation and Minister of Justice, Mr. Bubakar Malami. The senior advocate told Channels Television's Ladia Kiridulale on our current affairs program, Newsnight, that what the government has tried to do is to investigate the circumstances surrounding each case and safeguard the country's resources.
As it is, as I'm talking to you now, there exists over 150 billion judgments as at 2015.
So the video that I've shared is of an Nigerian government official trying to explain why the Nigerian Vision 2020 failed, despite them using more than 150 billion to materialize it. It's 2024, the plan failed. So this government official is trying to explain why it never materialized.
150 billion naira judgments.
150 billion naira judgment against the interest of the federal government as at 2015 when this government came into being. And our assets, national assets, all over the globe are experiencing one threat or the other, targeted at enforcing this kind of judgments. But what we have tried to do as a government, one, is to fulfill those judgments, dates. Two, look into circumstances, surrounding circumstances that gave rise to those judgments. Three, assess and analyze them from the possibility of insider compromises, fraud, and corrupt practices for the purpose of ensuring at the end of the day that we take steps to ensure those that have fraudulent component are set aside.
For the full interview with Mr. Malami, do watch Newsnight tomorrow, Monday, 4th November 2019 at 9 p.m. only on Channels Television. President Muhammadu Buhari has congratulated the President of the African Development Bank, Dr. Akumi Adesina, and the bank's Board of Governors on the historic increase of its capital base from $93 billion to $208 billion. In a statement by the presidency, the president says the feat places the multilateral institution on a stronger pedestal to drive growth and development on the African continent.
That was the African Development Bank adding more investment to the Nigerian government to work on their Vision 2020, and of course it failed. And now, as we are in the last hour, we are going to be looking at some of the reasons these development plans never come to materialize. And one of the recurring theme you'll see is the funding that happens with these plans and agendas. The funding is, in all cases, external. We talk about having a development agenda in Ethiopia, and the one funding them is the IMF, is the Bretton Woods institutions. And with knowing very well why these institutions were established, knowing very well the agendas that they have in Africa, then you're quick to know that it's not going to happen. just another project that is so beautiful on paper, but that is not going to happen in any way. Look at the African, so basically the whole of Africa combined has a development agenda that they call the AU Agenda 2063. This is the second agenda that they came up with. The first one was the Lagos Plan of Action in 1982 that they came up with in Lagos when they met. Back then the AU was called the OAU, the Organization of African Union. And they came up with a plan that I have cited again here, that was to see Africa uniting in so many things. It was one, it was looking into creation of an African common market, the improvement of domestic trade. That was basically the main thing, was trade and finance in the Lagos 1982 Lagos Plan of Action. I'm talking about the Lagos Plan of Action because it is what failed and has now necessitated the need for the African Union Agenda 2063, which is also not going to work. So it was talking about creation of an African common market and the improvement of domestic trade at both national and regional levels by the year 2000. It was supposed to see Africa become the world's biggest industrial producer by 2000. Also by the year 2000, it was supposed to see Africa. There were 450 transport projects that were supposed to have, that costed a total of $8.85 billion that were supposed to have been implemented in Africa, according to the Lagos Plan of Action. There was supposed to be a plan to see the least developed countries in Africa boosted. That is, we are talking the likes of Burundi. There was a plan to see them boosted in the 1982 Lagos Plan of Action. Talked about a lot of things to do with energy, how Africa was supposed to be sustainable in its energy sources, how they were going to diversify on energy supplies and the development plans. It never materialized really, and it is now what is changed the name to African Development Agenda 2063. Who's finding it? The African Development Bank, which is the body in charge of it, the African Union. So you can tell all the bodies are not African, but they are claiming to be the ones in charge of the development of Africa, the African Development Agenda, but the bodies themselves are not even African. But they're the ones who have been tasked with the role of seeing a developed Africa. So how can we have a plan that is being implemented by people who work so hard to see Africa underdeveloped, but they're the ones implementing a plan to see Africa developed? Of course, one thing is they are going to sabotage the plan and make sure that it doesn't work. Not really sabotage, because even at the beginning they know it's not gonna work. It's just a mechanism to add into the debt trap, to make African nations more trapped into the debt trap, as I was saying. So that is the main reason why none of these agendas, plans, and goals will ever be. The infrastructure surrounding it. You look at the infrastructure, you look at the funding, you look at the people behind it. If you want to access any development plan, for example, on my screen right now, I'm looking at the Ghanaian Vision 2020 development plan, and guess what it reads at the top of it. Let me share the screen so that you can see what I mean when I say the systems, the infrastructure, even the plans themselves. Look at your screen and see the first words that come at the top of the Ghanaian Vision 2020 development. This is the official document that I was going through of the development strategy for poverty reduction. So they wanted to see poverty reduced in Ghana they wanted to see a 10% increase in GDP every year. They wanted to see poverty reduction by up to 30%, if I'm not wrong. They wanted to see Ghana as a developed country by 2020. But look at the first words in this document. the document of the World Bank. It's not even a document of a Ghanaian document. The official development document is a document of the World Bank. You can see it right there. And the document that is supposed to be a document of the people of Ghana, which they're supposed to access, because it's their development plan. Whatever is written there directly affects the people of Ghana. It's their plan. They're the one paying for it. Doesn't matter whether the World Bank is funding it. The World Bank is not giving aid. It is giving loans. So it is the people of Ghana who, at the end of the day, are going to pay for this. At the end of the day, they're the ones who are going to pay for the plan. But right there, if you can see on the screen, the document says, this document is a restricted distribution and may be used by recipients only in the performance of the official duties. Its content may otherwise may not be disclosed without World Bank authorization. Why do I need the World Bank to authorize me viewing a document on the development project of my country? I'm a Ghanaian. It is a document that talks about Ghana's development plan, and yet I cannot see the document. First and foremost, it's not a Ghanaian document, it's a World Bank document, and it has restricted access. It's the same thing they do with the loans. They give loans and then they say this loans has an undisclosure clause, NDC. So the government takes a loan that it can't even tell the people how much it was or for what purpose it is going to be used, because apparently they signed an NDC on a public debt. How can there be an NDC on a public debt? How can a public debt be non-disclosure? And yet the public is the one that is going to pay. What are they going to pay for? Debts that they do not understand. It doesn't make sense at all, that even these development agendas, plans, visions are all being ran by the same infrastructure, the same cabals, the same organizations that are against African development. The fact that the Ghanaian development strategy is a World Bank document does not sit well with me. And it is one of the reasons why it failed. Ghana's Vision 2020 failed for that. Because the framework, the planning, the elements, they are all foreign and by bodies that are not African. But look at it, look at how beautiful the document is. If you read that, I don't know, the principal element of the strategy to achieve these objectives include accelerating economic growth through implementation of sound fiscal, monetary, and other macroeconomic policies. Yeah, so this was what Ghana was supposed to do. What did Ghana do? That is why I said most of these documents contain things that African countries and leaders and politicians know they should be doing, but they do not do. For example, they know that they're supposed to accelerate economic growth through sound fiscal, monetary, and other macroeconomic policies. That is the bare minimum. They're supposed to have sound fiscal policies. They're supposed to have sound monetary policies. They're supposed to have sound macroeconomics policies. But they do not. Instead of doing that, what did Ghana do? Ghana took a loan that wanted, and the president, when he took power, took a loan that was aimed at building, 100+ hospitals. He wanted to build a hospital in every district. And General Mosquito can correct me if I'm wrong. And he took a loan, a huge lump sum of the loan for that project, which failed. It failed for the second reason that these things fail, these plans fail, corruption. So it went and took a big loan to finance a certain project. Then the money was stolen. And now it had to pay loans that now the people of Ghana, let me not say Ghana had to pay because Ghana did not have to pay. It's the people who paid. Now the people of Ghana were in this debt trap where they had to pay for loans that were taken to materialize projects that were never materialized. So you're paying a debt for something that you're not seeing. It's one thing paying a debt, but it's another thing paying a debt for a project that you can't even see. If I take a loan and buy a car, then I'll not complain as much when paying the debt because I can see my car. I can see what the loan did. But now we are paying for loans that we do not even see the projects that they went into building, into working towards. And you look at the principal element of the strategy, it's ironical, comical, that the first element of the strategy is implementing sound monetary policies. And the first thing that the president does when he takes power is doing away with fuel subsidies, knowing very well that African economies, most of them are fueled by fuel. The fuel price determines the price of everything else because fuel is used in production of electricity, it is used in the chain of supply. Then the first element of an economic plan being sound economic policies, and the first step being doing away with the fuel subsidies. It's ironical that the first strategy is sound economic policies. The second thing you do is float your currency. You float your currency knowing very well you do not export anything. You do not have an export value. The only thing you export is cocoa that is raw and processed. So of course its export value is negligible. And then what do? You float your currency. You want it to compete. You want it to you want the value of your currency to be determined by the forces of demand and supply, knowing very well all you do is demand, you do not supply anything to the world. So most of these things that they write in these documents, these World Bank documents, because that is what they are things that are the bare minimums, things that they know they should be doing, and now they are putting them in plans. They have the bare minimums. You don't need a plan for you to make, you don't need a whole World Bank document for you to make sound fiscal policies. You do not need a World Bank document for you to shield your people from inflation by doing subsidies on food, doing subsidies on fuel, doing subsidies on basic commodities. Every country in the world that had a good governance did that. When there was the problem of oil prices going high, gas prices going high in the international market, almost every economy in the world shielded its people from the high prices by subsidization. Look at the third principal element, talking about broadening and deepening the manufacturing and service sectors in order to create new business opportunities. Well, that's a good idea, a very, very good idea. You need to broaden and deepen the manufacturing sectors, especially because we are agricultural economies, we are agricultural sectors. So agricultural and manufacturing sometimes, in most cases, goes together because agriculture provides the raw materials that are going to be used in the manufacturing. So it's a good idea, a brilliant idea that should be done in every African country that has agriculture, in every African country that has minerals, which is every country. Rwanda should be doing this, Congo should be doing this, Ethiopia should be doing this. It's the bare minimum. But was it done in Ghana? Did they broaden, did they deepen the manufacturing and service sectors? That is why their development plan, like every other African one, failed. Not just failed, but left them in a debt trap that they are yet to get out, and they are not going to get out anytime soon because they are taking debts to pay even the debts. So you look at these plans, and most of them are the bare minimums that should be done. I mean, you don't need a plan for you to improve access to training, financial service, credit, and you do not need a document for you to increase access to credit because economies run by credit. I need to go to a bank, take a loan, start a business, employ people. But now you are denying me access to credit and I can't access the credit. And because I can't get a loan, 5 people get unemployed because if I got the loan, I would have started a hotel and employed 5 people. But because you are in a debt trap and you are getting into a deeper debt trap because you want to construct the biggest airport in the world, because you want to create a solar panel project in the middle of nowhere, because you want to create a technopolis city in a country that people are dying of floods, you are now in a debt trap and you need to pay this big debt by June. So what do? You're trying to get as much money as you can from each and every sector. And the only option you have is to have the Central Bank of Ghana, the Central Bank of Nigeria, direct banks to increase their interest rates so that you can collect more money from the people, so that you can be able to pay the Bretton Woods institutions. And now the people of Nigeria, the people of Ghana, the people of Uganda cannot access financial services. They cannot access credit. And they cannot be able, and as I said, economies are run by credit. That is, the world runs on debt. Good debt though. Good debt. And because I can't access a debt, I can't be able to start a potato processing company in central Kenya, where I would have bought potatoes from the farmers, processed it into crisps, into potato crisps, and exported it. In that way, I've employed people, I've empowered the farmers, I've added into the export value of my country, so the GDP is gonna go higher. So the Kenyan currency is gonna gain, not the artificial gaining that it has been gaining over the last couple of months, and that the bubble has started bursting. Not the artificial gaining, real gaining, because I'm having a better export value. So people now need the Kenya shilling more. It is in high demand. So you do not need the World Bank to write a document for you to know that you need to have improved access to financial services. You do not need a World Bank document for you to increase investment in human resource, for you to have better quality education, better quality health, better quality water and sanitation. Because you look at a country like DRC and how they were dying of cholera the other day. How is a country going to be productive when the people are having cholera? In 2024, water and sanitation is a problem. Access to healthcare. Is it 4 weeks since Kenyans saw a doctor in a hospital? 4 weeks that doctors have been on a strike. 4 weeks without a doctor in any public hospital. So you can make all the plans you want. You can talk about all the futuristic ideas, all the Marvel type of political, economic development that you want, but they're all gonna fail because we do not do the bare minimums. And the bare minimums are very few. It's about 4 bare minimums that African economies need to do. The first bare minimum that you need to do is, when you are in a hole, you stop digging. You don't dig any further. That is the biggest downfall for all African economies, and that is the biggest downfall for everything that we are talking about today. The moment you realize that you are in a hole, you do not continue to dig. You do not get out of a hole by digging further. So Ethiopia realizes it has this debt problem. It can't be able to serve its external debt. And when it does, it uses 90% of its budget. But it goes further and continue taking more debts. You're deepening the hole. How do you not notice you making things worse for you? So the bare minimums that African economies should work on, one is stop digging further. You are already in a hole. Stop digging further. Stop taking more external debts. Stop borrowing for a living, because that is what African economies do. I told you, if an African economy was to be asked, what do you do for a living? It borrows for a living. It borrows to pay debts and then borrows another loan to pay the loan that it borrowed, and now it has 4 loans that were taken to pay the first debt.
Nothing ever changes. You guys see me over? I'm trying to. We're talking to Facebook shit. Got some things like that. That's why I left. It was too much noise. Yeah, take loans after loans, and You can't pay a loan with another loan. You can't live off debt and loans. You must generate some kind of sustainable economy where it perpetuates itself. And Africa has been falling into the debt trap on purpose because that's where they set everything up. And the first puppets that came into the first puppets they installed back in the 1960s with the fake goddamn revolutionary nonsense in the bag. They set up all these debt traps back then with their puppets, with the Jomo Kenyattas and all the puppets they set up in Africa. They set up all the debt traps then. Because the puppets didn't know what the fuck was going on. Most of them were ignorant. They had no idea. He's sitting across the table from people that are financial wizards, specifically set there to put them in a debt trap. And they just stroke their goofy egos. You know, you are a boy now. Say, you're a boy. We put you as president. Sign this stuff. We're gonna, make you and your family rich. Shake them back. Oh, okay. Just sign these goofy deals. As they sign away the African people's resources and stuff. It's crazy.
And why it's so hard for Africa to break out of its poverty cycle is, there's something called the vicious cycle of poverty, where if you are born poor, the possibility of you dying poor is very high, and your child being poor also is very high, because poverty is a cycle. You are poor, so if you are poor, of course you have low production, you can't produce anything, and of course if you have low production, you have low income. And once you have low income, you have low investment. You can't invest in anything. And once you have low investment, there is low production, and you become poor again. And the circle goes on like that. And that is what is happening in most African economies. Once poverty starts, it is likely to continue unless something changes, because African countries are poor, and therefore they can't produce anything. There is low production. Once there is low production, there is low income.
African countries are rich. They've been put in poverty and not being allowed to manufacture because the world doesn't want them to manufacture. They want to extract their resources, take it to their countries, give their people jobs, manufacture it, and then sell it back as finished products around the world that makes them rich, keeps Africa poor. So, and the youth, like Demore knows this now, the scam is up. These idiots who set up the countries, accepted. I don't know if I can't say they accepted it. It might have been like, what they call gun barrel diplomacy. Got the gun, you do it, it'll blow your head off. So might be, as John Magafu, no one would sign these deals unless you were drunk. No one would sign none of these. No one would try none of these trade deals or debt trap deals unless you were a drunk person. So I'm pretty sure they were told, you do it, or somebody's gonna, one of your family members gonna end up missing. As Africans, they should have realized what Kwame Nkrumah said when they were all trying to get freedom. So let's reunite. We're too small and we're too uneducated people to keep the colonialists at bay. The only way we can win over this is a unified people. Right. They said they will come back and they will take everything back. They're not going to just say, "Ooh, you niggas have got independent, you're free, we're going to leave you alone and we're going to be fair with you." No, they didn't come to Africa to be fair. They came to rape, rob, and pillage. They're going to just say, let's stop rape, robbing, and pillage. They're just going to repackage it in another way, which they're doing. See, if you had like an African Union, what's happened in Nairobi, United States of Africa, all Africans would have mobilized, the continent would have mobilized to help everybody with those floods. That would have been a real government. Since you haven't united, got every fiefdom be like, hey, like Demore said, go to higher ground and, despicable this is. So the African governments don't even work for the African people. They're not governments.
How I wish they would have listened to
Well, they did this.
When he was talking about that, and Kwame Nkrumah was with the Central African president of the first Central African Republic president, David Dacko, and he was actually suggesting that they have a common capital, a common army, and a common currency. Nkrumah did not even want the capital in his country. That guy was selfless. He was suggesting that the capital be in Bangui in Central African Republic because it's the central. He thought it was the central point of Africa. But of course, they never listened to him. Of course, the likes of Mwalimu Julius Nyerere and the rest say that it is true, we need to unite, but it's not an emergency. We can unite gradually. That is what they said.
Yeah, and he was wrong. And much as I love Julius Nyerere, he was a good leader. He was absolutely wrong. And they know, and also the Europeans was behind it to make sure that they wouldn't unite. It's all kind of, you know, Julius might have been coming from a real place. Job and the other ones were not. They wanted to be puppets. They wanted to be kings and have their own little fiefdoms. So because they went to the ego, they all were poor, you know, and coming from nothing. Everybody wants to be rich and I'm going to be the king now. You know.
I saw a later interview of Mwalimu Julius Nyerere had an interview later on, many years after he had retired, and he was asked why he was among the people who were opposing the unifying the unity of African countries, and he said at that time they did not trust each other as African leaders because they had just taken power. It was in 1963. We're talking about 1963 when they met in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia, and Kenya had just taken power. Nyerere, most of the leaders had just gained independence, so they did not even trust each other. They thought Kwame Nkrumah wanted. They thought Nkrumah wanted to take over.
That's true. That's true too. How would he take? He wasn't gonna be the president of it. He said let's unite now. He was telling you we'll all vote, but he wasn't gonna be the president. I think that's just bullshit to say because the Europeans were behind the scenes saying, "Hey, don't be uniting with nobody. We're gonna make you the king." So you know the Europeans. You'll find the truth. The Europeans were behind it. The Europeans never want Africans to unite. It's always divide and conquer. So anything they can do to stop the unification, that's why they overthrew his ass.
So that was the excuse that they give. And by the way, the 32 African leaders who met in Addis Ababa on the 25th of May 1963 listened to Kwame Nkrumah talk about that, listened to David Dacko of Central African Republic talk about that, listened to, of course, by that time, Patrice Lumumba had been killed. And the only solution they came up with at the end of that was the establishment of the OAU, the Organization of African Unity. They had Nkrumah talk about a common army, a common currency, a common president, and they came up with the OAU. The OAU is currently the AU. That was the first step that we messed up, that we fucked up as African people. Not listening to Kwame Nkrumah, not listening to leaders who knew what would come of Africa, you know. And Dacko was the one who repeated what Nkrumah was talking. He said so many times, Central African Republic as a country is too small. The French people are gonna come back. Yes, and trust me, they went back there.
All the countries are set up too small to stop white European hegemony. Exactly right, Mark. They all were too small to stop the hegemony.
And I remember Kwame Nkrumah saying that the independence of Ghana is nothing without the independence of Africa. But of course, nobody listened to them
because the Europeans would tell them they all were going to be kings tomorrow and be rich. They didn't give a fuck about nobody. I'm be honest. They just said, as you figure this out, they all told them you're gonna be the big man. See, Africa has always had that big man syndrome shit. Everybody wants to be the big man, Demore. Not the rest of the people. We're gonna make you the big man. Yeah, we're gonna give you some money too. You know, we're gonna make you. You're not gonna be poor and all fucked up like you've been under colonialism. You're gonna have some money now. Yeah, that's right. Now, but you're gonna sign all these deals, giving most of the ownership of the businesses to us. I don't care. I'm gonna be rich. I'm gonna be the big man. Yeah, we're gonna keep your ass in power too. Yeah, like people ain't gonna get mad. Yeah, we're gonna keep them. We're gonna keep you in power. Your people ain't gonna know shit. They're happy. They think we're gone. They're just gonna be happy. They're independent. So it's gonna take them about 20 years to figure that they're not. So by then it's too late. We got their ass. We're gonna have them all kind of debt traps, and we're gonna have it all set up. You got it? I don't know what you're talking about, Mr. White Man, but I'm gonna get some money, right? Yeah. Okay. So that's what's going on. So what DeMaurice said, that's what's happening.
And that was what Chinua Achebe was thinking when he wrote. Was it in the Enemy of the People? No, The Enemy of the People was by Henrik Ibsen. That was in either Things Fall Apart. Chinua Achebe wrote that the new master is not like the old. The new master, he speaks our language, he eats our food. So that was the new colonial master. Now they were just puppets. The colonial master never really left. He just placed people who would speak our language, who would eat our food, who had our names. And Odinga also wrote a book called Not Yet Uhuru, that translated means it's not yet independence. So he looked at things in 1989 and wrote, it's not yet Uhuru. It's not yet even independence. We are just getting lied to that we are independent as African people, but we really were never independent. So we are looking at things, the fundamentals that we should do to change the things, the nature of things as African people. And the first highlighter was stop digging further. We're already in a hole, so the next thing we should do is stop digging any further. You realize you are in a death trap, you don't continue in the same direction. You change tactic. You cannot be poor because of debts and you're still continuing to borrow. The second thing is what was in the Ghana economic plan, a World Bank document, is accelerate economic growth through sound monetary policy. That is all. Just have sound monetary policy. Stop making policies. Once you've done away with one, digging the hole further, you're no longer borrowing, then start making sound monetary policies. Stop floating your currency when you do not have export value. Stop taking away subsidies from people when you know your people are poor. Stop with the poor economic policies that we make, the macroeconomic policies that we make. That is the second. And then after you're done with...
See, now you got the fourth generation, that'll be DeMaurice now, that knows all this. That's why the youth are dangerous. That's why they need to pacify the youth. DeMaurice, like a lot of Africans now, they know the scam. This is dangerous to white power. It's dangerous. Because on the continent, DeMaurice not the only one that knows it now. So, you're supposed to be smarter than your grandfathers and your great-grandfathers. So you got generations that know why is Africa still, what's going on with the poverty shit, man. So it's in their face that they've been betrayed by the elders. Not all of them, not the people that actually fought, the puppets that they put in power. So this is dangerous. That's why you hear the Europeans talking about coming back in and taking over. That's why you got the French general. We need to come back in. They openly came. We need to come back in and colonize Africa.
Oh, we're gonna fight them with our F-15s. They can't.
No, even with your bad military equipment, as long as you got boots on the ground, you got your populations are becoming too big. They know that. See, they can't. Everything can't just be technical. You got to put hands. You got to get hand-to-hand combat tomorrow to actually win a war to subdue our people. It must be hand-to-hand. They have to be flying around on space, fancy jets and shit. Yeah, dropping bombs. That don't win you a war. You got to be up close and war tomorrow is up close and personal in your face, hand-to-hand combat. So that's why they worried about the African population. So they got a big population. Yeah, abuse. So I don't believe they will ever be able to retake Africa because of the youth. And as soon as they said that Ibrahim Traoré start training his men to get ready, because without Africa, family, the youth are starting to know that Africa, Europe has always been poor. Always.
Kid, do you think, I wanted to ask you this, do you think Africa should take the Korean route where every male in Korea goes for military training. Should that also start happening in Africa?
It's about North Korea. North Korea.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I think. Please send me a screenshot of it. I might need to create it here so that
yeah, before Keith comes back to answer that, the third pointer that I thought Africa should do if it indeed wants to get out of its cycle of poverty, because it's in a cycle of poverty, and in economics, getting out of a cycle of poverty is not as easy as you think it is, because you do not have anything to produce, you do not have anything to. So the third step that they should do is starting to strengthen on its strong points, on its strongholds. For example, if you are talking about Nigeria, work on strengthening your oil industry. We are talking about Kenya. If you are talking about Uganda, working on strengthening your agricultural industry. Stop exporting low value products.
Exactly.
Nobody is going to respect you. You are not going to get any real value in return, and your Ugandan shilling will be at the cost, the price it is right now at, I don't know, almost 200 shillings. So start adding value to your products. So right now, one, you are not taking debts anymore. Two, you are making sound economic policies. Three, you are adding value to your whatever you produce. If I'm talking about DRC, add value to your cobalt, add value to your whatever you produce. Do not have Tesla come in and take raw cobalt from you. Add value to it. Let them come start manufacturing car batteries in Congo, not exporting raw cobalt. And now they have to buy car batteries from you, and that is, of course, going to be at a very, very high value. So your export value is going to go up, the demand for your currency is going to go up, and your GDP is going to rise, and the people of Congo are going to start doing better because the miners are going to get paid better wages. The government is going to make more money in terms of taxes. Now it doesn't have to borrow.
Everybody knows what you're saying, Demore, is correct. 100%. Everybody knows that. But I'm the European. You fucking me up. You think I'm gonna stand by, or the Chinese? I'm gonna stand by without a war? Allow you to take money out of my mouth? You think I'm just gonna allow you to do? You think I'm gonna allow you just to be actually own what's yours and mine what's yours and have the rights of what's yours? You know, you live in I know it sounds crazy, but you know now you live in a world of psychopaths, Demore. They believe Africa is supposed to belong to them. I want you to understand they really believe this. Not that you're African and what's in the ground. No, they believe, yeah, you African. How can I get rid of your punk ass and get the resources for me so I can continue living the life I've grown accustomed to? You know, the Europeans know they were, with all their propaganda and all their fake books they've given the Africans. They know the truth. Without Africa, they were always poor. So that's why they fight so hard to make sure they do not lose that. That's why the Chinese are there in Africa. They're not there to be nobody's friend. These Africans, the Chinese have come to help us and be our friends. You got the mind of a child. You're a moron. They're not there to be your friend. They're not there. They can come all the way over there, be your friend, and they help you, stupid. Came there because Africa's wealthy. They want a piece of the pie. Everybody's there to rob and steal Africa because it's wealthy. So a lot of youth know that you're going to have to fight for Africa because they're not going to. What Demore said would be in a perfect world, just world, just we can have psychopaths and parasites trying to steal, trying to bang on your door, come in and hit you in the head and take all your shit out the house. In a perfect world, that would be normal, but we don't live in a world of justice and upright people. We live in a world of vicious, parasitical psychopaths.
Somebody actually said that the on-ground colonialism was better than the neo-colonialism that we have now, that the colonialism of the 40s and 30s was better than the one we have now, because at that time, everybody knew that we were colonized. Everybody knew that we were under these people, and that is why they fought. But now with neo-colonialism, the worst part is people do not even know. Majority of the people do not know what is happening.
it's even worse. It's more insidious because now they're like back in the background. You see your puppet, you think he actually runs shit. He doesn't. It's even more insidious. You're right, Demar. You knew when the white man was there, you had to fight him, and the Mau fight him because they were vicious.
We could see him right there, and we fought him. But right now, trust me, kids, 90-80% of Africans do. Even the learned ones. If I was to walk inside my class and ask how many people really understand even the learned ones do not. So what about the ones who are not learned? They don't understand what happens in the world with the neo-colonialism. They think that their president is William Ruto and he makes the policies. They think, that is what Africans believe.
All I need is 10%, Demar. 10% overturns everything. I think it's 10% of Africans on the continent now, the youth. At least 10% of them know the truth. Because I'm on that TikTok app, they know the truth that these presidents don't run a damn thing but their mouths. Because when they it's even more insidious because they're now like in the background. You think the white people in your country just walk around not having to do with it. A lot of those motherfuckers are spies. So you gotta get all white people out your country first because you don't know which ones even spies. You gotta shut down your damn embassies because that's what the CIA. All the people walking around, you think it's just regular white people in the mall. Those be agents. Those be agents in your country, making sure the shit don't go, making sure the country doesn't go back to you. You think they just regularly right. You don't know that those are actually goddamn CIA and Mossad and MI6 agents walking around Kenya. You think they're just white people who just live there now, just going in the mall. No, some motherfucking agents, spies, making sure, when they sit on the bus. Oh, the white man on the bus. He think he's your buddy. No, he's a spy. He's tapping the temperature of Kenya, listening.
How I wish there's going to come a day when you're walking around in Japan and you meet a black person and the people are saying that must be an African spy. That is a Nigerian spy right there. Right now, if you are black and walking around Japan, they know you're an illegal migrant looking for a job.
That's right. Yeah. That's why I told you, Demar, why the African was supposed to create its own clandestine CIA, Mossad, MI6, its own intelligence agency. You're exactly right. Well, he's gathered.
Is there a single black person in the world who has ever been suspected of being a spy in any Western country?
They never.
You're walking around Brazil and they're saying that nigga is a spy.
I said, sadly enough, it's not funny, but sadly enough, you're right. That's a migrant who escaped Africa looking for a job and a place to stay. You're right. They don't think you James Bond and no shit. and the funny part, Demar, that would work on the behalf of Africans if they built a clan, because people would think that they wouldn't have to try to hide themselves as spies. Oh, they're gonna migrate right there and shit. It actually was an African benefit because they're so far down to now create spies to go into Europe and America and all these other countries and and get close to power and listen and see what's going on, take the temperature of the country because they're so far removed. So nobody don't believe it's an African spy, like you said. African spy, get out of here with that dumb shit. Get out of here, you crazy.
I want to start hearing narratives such as the US claiming that the election was rigged by Burkina Faso. Burkina Faso had a role in rigging our election. The way they speak with the Russians, how I wish we could have a day like that. And basically what Keith is saying is we know what should be done, but we are not doing it. We are not going to do it because of the infrastructure, of the systems. And HR, the messenger, is in the building, is coming up in the next few minutes with what's the radar. Is going to be telling you what's the radar and what has been happening. This has been the diary of a young black king on a beautiful Saturday afternoon. It's not raining today. For the first time this week, it's not raining. So at least we do not expect floods today, maybe later in the night. We've been talking about Africa's visions, plans, aspirations, agendas, development goals that never come to pass and that are never going to come to pass. And we looked at some of the reasons that they are never going to be. And on top of those reasons that we talked about, add corruption, because African leaders are corrupt to the core. So the money that will be left after all the other factors have been factored in is going to get stolen. Trust me, it's going to get stolen. So that is why we are never these agendas, visions, and aspirations. The Kenyan Vision 2030, the Ugandan Vision 2040, the Rwandan Vision 2050, the African Development Agenda 2063, the EAC Development Agenda 2040, the Tanzanian Vision 2025. Name them all. The Nigerian Vision 2020, it's 2024. Nigerians are still waiting for their Agenda 2020. 2024.
because they're not real. They're not real manifestos, DeMar. It's bullshit to keep the people at bay, to keep them hoping on things that they're never gonna.
You should go through one of them, Keith, and see how beautiful they are. You might think they've been drafted by ChatGPT. They are so beautiful.
Of course,
we're gonna believe them. We're gonna buy into the dream. If you are an alien, that is.
Well, I gotta
buy into the dream.
I gotta keep you at bay. I gotta say, look what the government plans to do right here. Hey, moron, that's all bullshit on this paper. You don't see them implementing none of that shit. Give them time, as every African always says. Give them time. Give them time. You don't need time to see what's going on. You see what they're not doing. If I got a natural disaster and they're not doing shit even with that, I don't need to give them time. I can see.
Yeah, that is. I use throwing shade at Tanzania. That is Tanzania. Tanzania has 6 months to become a middle-income country. It's supposed to be a middle-income country by 2025 January, and 150 people died from floods.
Yeah, good luck with that. Nah, you're middle-income country. You haven't developed any. You got to develop a power source first.
Their GDP 76 billion. They have 6 months to improve from that. 76 billion.
That's the GDP. Imagine Elon Musk, Warren Buffett, Bill Gates, these other wicked, no good bad that have bigger GDPs than Tanzania. one person, bigger GDP than their whole goddamn country.
But listen, they still have 6 months. They know what they're doing. In the next 6 months, they are gonna be a middle-income country.
That you can't be a middle-income country until you have reliable energy, not with windmills and solar panels and shit like that. You must have real energy. You can't have lights going off fucking every other damn day. You can have people, if they build a hotel in your country, they gotta have backup generators, shit like that. You gotta have clean, effective. The word means effective. It's got to work.
But at least, kids, for us, the generator is the backup one. For Nigeria, the power is the backup. The generator is the main. The power is the backup. They get power once a week.
Well, I'm saying you can't be a middle income country until you settle your power problem. Shout out to the guys up there in Sahel saying, forget that, we're gonna go nuclear. Zach, why didn't they want to give the Africans the nuclear? They were never your friends. Nuclear, okay, that would have been a danger because now you can start manufacturing. This should have been nuclear power plants in Africa years ago.
Apparently, it is there in Uganda's Vision 2040, nuclear production, and that is why they contracted Russians to help them with that. They have that in their agenda. The Ugandan Agenda 2040 has nuclear production as one of its.
Shouldn't take no 20 years to build no nuclear power plant, DeMar. Take about 2 years, 3 years at the most. I gotta wait till 2040 to get some energy around this bitch. Made up then. You see Niger, the real people in Bikini Bottom, they're building it now. It takes 2 years. I gotta wait 20 years to get some power around here. That's a lie.
You need a commission to investigate that. The commission needs 2 years to come up with a report. Then the budget has to be allocated, and another commission to investigate the budget. Then you need another commission to hire the contractor, and another commission to investigate the contractors.
kind of scams.
That is a lot of years.
We already know how nuclear power works. I don't need a commission. All I need is the technical skill or the engineers to come down and build it. And then while they're building it, I need my people alongside them to learn the technology themselves, so they can also be the ones that build new ones if we need them, and also be the ones that keep maintenance on said plant for good pay. That's all I need. I don't need all these crazy commissions all the time Africa does. I need to get shit done. You know, all the time throwing these Negroes in a commission in Africa or a commission in Europe or fucking in Russia, Japan, and China. You know, hey, listen, enough of the damn commissions. You got engineers.
Yeah, so I get what you're saying. I get what you're saying, Keith, but that will need a commission to investigate your claims. We'll need to create a commission to investigate whether what you're saying is true.
We just keep going around in circles.
That's African politics for you.
Yeah, now I'm in a commission to see how people when floods happen. Let's form a commission. You see what happened to flood, and people had to go to higher ground. Let's get a commission.
Yeah, we are going to get to the bottom of this.
Shit crazy.
Yeah, they need to get to the bottom of that.
Absolutely insane. Like, damn, man. Come on, man. Africans, it's set up so Africa is set up so bad, so heinous, so diabolically wicked. These Europeans, man, it's so damn wicked and evil. Like I said, it's only going to be through revolution, like you see in Burkina Faso and the rest of the Sahel states. That's where your beginning of the United States of Africa is starting from. You don't want to be part of that. That's why ECOWAS is trying to bring them back in. No, won't put no part of that dumb shit, begging them to come back. Because you're going to pay them. And now the AU telling them to come over. No, we want to be part of no more African Union. That's done. No more puppet organizations. They're all puppet organizations. The AU backed by the damn Europeans. ECOWAS backed by the. No, we want no parts of that shit no more. That's the
what you're saying is actually true, because some of the things that have taken Africa years and years and years to do, those people are doing it in months. For example, intertrade between African countries was there in the 1982 Lagos Plan of Action. 20, 30 years later, it has never happened. We saw Niger and Burkina Faso are trading oil. They had their first oil.
It's on the trade because their system is set up more. You're not to have trade with Africa. You always go back to the European master, so they benefit. See, there's no benefit for them if you do. Everybody set those fake borders. If you trade with each other, you start know each other again. If you have free movement in Africa, then you might decide, you know what? I like to live in Namibia because that's where my better job, because that's what I know, and that's where the job is at. See, when you have free movement and then free trade amongst the countries, you start to learn each other again, which you lost the last 20 years. And then you start to have free movement where you can live anywhere now. Now you start to set up
a free trade. Free trade starts with a currency, because why do I need a US dollar to buy jollof rice from Nigeria? Why do I need US dollar to buy from Uganda?
See, when you do that, also when you do that, you can't see nobody an immigrant nowhere in Africa, because one currency is worth the same all throughout Africa. That's why they don't want that. Mm-hmm. They don't want you to have one currency. Now you when you unite, the more you win. Africans learn to unite. Your power is in your unification. That's your power. They keep you poor and fucked up with the dividing of you. I come and say, you know, the more you're a Kikuyu and these dudes want to take over, we gotta fuck them, man. We gotta make sure power stays in your hand so you can be the big boss later. Yeah, that's right. Fuck these dudes.
And now you are dead.
so that's what they do. So that's why you're in the inner tribal beast within the country. You got to put that down. You got to say, no, I don't have loyalty to no tribe or no country. I have loyalty to Africa. You got to learn to become African first, and you got to learn to mean that in your heart that your people come first. African people, they got to come first. Then Europeans, Chinese. Once you do that, that's why everybody's fighting to make sure you never do that. Try I'm gonna put any kind of division bomb I can in it. You remember when the damn Lure took your land into your cocoon? You remember when they stole your land because they ain't no goddamn good? Yeah, I remember that.
And the black hot fire time commission tells me my time is up.
Right.
After investigating and getting to the bottom of the matter, they're telling me HR, the messenger is coming up in the next few minutes. So I hope you join him.
Spikes was saying that he wait for Spikes. He's showing up today. Ask him to show out because it worked for him. He was able to post his article.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know about you or not, but you can try it again. But he was able to post his article. I have no reason why it messed up for you. So
I'll ask him when he comes.
Yeah, he's supposed to be there at 3. So I asked that debaucherous ass nigga. Spike, if you listen, I know you've been looking at the show. Spike, I just brought you back. Joby's gunning to get rid of you already, man. Joby's gunning to get rid of you, man. She's gunning to get rid of you. So I'm being honest, keeping Spikes. Don't fuck up, man. I can't save you this time. I can't save you. I don't want your stomach to touch your backbone, man. So don't try to sneak no women in there. She's looking for you. You fucking up already. Tried to bring some women in last week. Come on, man. Come on, Spikes. Not again, please. I can't save you this time. I can't save you. You fuck up. Joby says you gotta get rid of you. I'm about to say yeah. So do right, man. Don't do right. Do right. Don't be fucked up. Do right. You never know. Spikes is scandalous. You never know how Spikes is well spoken. He's just a good actor. You never know. The stuff that Spikes is did, somebody would tell me I would never believe if I didn't see with my own eyes. It's like I'm thinking I'd be like a dumb African talking about the colonial powers to me. They were talking about Spike doing all the shit he was doing. I'm like, no, I don't see that happen. I don't believe that. Because I saw it with my own eyes. I was like, God damn. Nigga's debaucherous.
I'll be asking him about the articles later when he comes. And
well, watch out, the more that nigga's that nigga's shady. He have you run into the streets of Nairobi butt naked with oil on yourself.
I enjoyed the sense of what they family.
He seems mild mannered. The more he seems like nice and mild mannered. That nigga's got he's an Spikes would be an African despot for real if he had the chance. That Negro's an African despot, but I love his ass, so I brought him back. That Negro's an African despot for real. God damn. Spikes, do right. Be good, man. Be good. Don't be a despot, dude. Damn. Do right. Shit. But naked with oil all up on him on the damn studio. Crazy.
Make sure to join me. Make sure to join me on Monday, family.
I'm trying to keep Spikes from destroying Demore's young mind.
So much love, family.
Much love, family. Let's go.